First Flight textbook in English for class 10th. I am explaining the third unit, first chapter, His First Flight by Liam O'Flaherty. Before you read, since the earliest times, humans have dreamt of conquering the skies. Here are two stories. So first, that is His First Flight, is about a young seagull that is afraid to fly. How does he conquer his fear? Now the explanation. Yes, the young seagull was all alone because he was afraid. He was not able to fly. His two brothers and his sisters had already flown away the day before. Means his brothers and sisters were successful in flying. He had been every time afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge, brink stands for the edge, the last edge of ledge. Ledge is one part projecting from a cliff here, and he tried many times to flap his wings, but he became afraid every time. The chapter is only about his fear. Yes, why he was fearful. The points are given. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath him. As he was above the sea, whenever he used to watch that there was great extension of sea under him, it was such a long way down, miles down. He was afraid every time to check this. He felt very sure that his wings would never support him. He didn't believe in his wings. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Means he every time tried and he was sure that he couldn't. That's why he just bent his head. He knelt down and ran back to his little hole that was his home under the ledge where he used to sleep at night time. Even when each of his brothers and sisters, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, and his brothers and little sister, whose wings were really shorter than his, they every time tried to run to the brink, flap their wings. They moved their wings. They were successful in flying. But the young seagull was not successful because he was failed. He was failed here to muster up, that is to collect his courage. Means he didn't have any guts to take his courage to take that plunge. Plunge stands for just starting, to dive, to try, which appeared to him so desperate. He was so disappointed. His father and mother had come around every time, to him shrilly and upbraiding him. They used to call him every time in a shrill manner, means they were very loud in calling and scolding him. And they threatened that they would leave him to starve. Starve means that he would die there because of his hunger if he didn't try to fly. But for the life of him, he could not move. Means he was so afraid that he couldn't do that. He was very, very insecure about his life. That was 24 hours ago, means just 24 hours before. Since then, nobody had come near him. Means his family members were not with him. That day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister. Means his parents were flying with his brothers and sister. It means that his family members were just doing precision in their art of flight, and parents were teaching them how to skim, how to move nicely over the waves, how to dive for fish. They were getting lessons. But the young seagull, in fact, really seen his older brother catch his first herring. Herring stands for little sea fish, and devour it. means he was just watching his older stands for elder brother. He was catching fish and eating that, but he was just still on a rock. His parents circled around, raising a proud cackle. He was able to hear the special proud cackling sound of his parents because they were happy that their children were learning the art of flying. And all the morning, the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. And the total morning, the whole family had walked, means they were not with him. Rather, they were on the opposite cliff. They were resting on the big plateau. They were taunting him because of his fearfulness. The sun was now ascending down. The sun was just getting higher and higher in the sky, and it was great heat. He was feeling that. He felt that heat because he had not eaten since the last nightfall. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge. Means again he went to the border of the ledge where he was resting, and he stood on one leg with the other leg hidden under his one wing. He closed one eye, then the other, because he wanted to pretend, he wanted to show to his family members that he was falling asleep. But it was really sorrowful affair that they were not taking any notice of him. Means he was ignored. He saw his brothers and his sister lying on the plateau dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. Means he was just watching his brothers and sister. They were enjoying flying. After that, they were resting with their heads under their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. His father was busy in attending his feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. Means his mother was just bothered about him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. She was just checking him, and she was just watching. Her white breast was coming forward. Now and again, she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. She tore one piece of fish. She used to just get attention of the little seagull. That's why she was just tapping her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. When the young seagull checked the food, he became very crazy. He started dying to get that food. He started recalling how he loved to tear food that way, how his mother was tearing the food. She was scraping her beak at that time, and he was recalling that he used to scrap, he used to tap his beak off and again to sharpen that. The idea is he got one will to get the food quickly. Ga, ga, ga. He cried, begging her to bring him some food. He started requesting by making many kinds of noises to give him some food. Gaul, kol, ah. She screamed back, but mother cried back in a manner like she was taunting that he was really stupid because he was not trying to fly. But he kept calling plaintively. But he went on requesting in a very sad manner. And after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. And after just 1 minute, he started crying in a happy manner because he thought that his mother, who had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He started feeling that mother was coming towards him. He leaned out. He started bending outside of his ledge where he was resting. And he was totally surprised because he was eagerly waiting for the food. He was tapping the rock with his feet like a happy person does. He was just trying to go near to his mother when she was flying here and there. But when she was just opposite to him, he checked that she halted, when she stopped little, and her wings were not moving at that time. Means the young seagull was waiting for the piece of fish that was in his mother's beak. It was almost within his reach of his beak. He was just enjoying that moment. He waited just for one moment in a surprising manner. But why? What happened? She didn't come nearer. Means the mother didn't come near. Then again he was maddened because of great hunger. He dived at the fish. He started just coming forward to get the fish. With a loud scream, with a high cry, he fell outward and downward into the space. And by chance it happened that he had to go down into the space. Then a monstrous terror, then a great terror seized him. Then a great terror caught him. His heart stood still. Means he became spellbound. He couldn't hear anything because everything happened by chance. He couldn't hear anything. And it only lasted for 1 minute, because next moment he got one special gut, that is natural instinct. He started feeling that his wings were spreading outward side, and it was very natural that one creature tries to survive. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, means he got the wind in his breast feathers, then under his stomach, against his wings, means he got proper air. He could move. He could feel the tips of his wings that were cutting through the air, means they were cutting the air, they were going forward. He was not falling headlong now. Now he was not falling forward side. Rather, he was just soaring. He was going higher and higher, slowly, slowly, first downwards, then outwards. He was no longer afraid. He became very, very brave at that time. But he was little uncomfortable, as it was his first flight. Then he flapped his wings once. He soared upwards. He went above. Ga 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 ga, gow cow ah. His mother swooped past him. His mother now started coming nearby him. His his total trial was praised by her. Her wings, means his mother's wings, were making a special noise when she was very happy at his trial. He answered his mother with another cry. Then his father flew over him screaming. Then his father also came forward. He started crying because of happiness. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting, banking, soaring, diving. Then he was very happy because all his family members were there, including his two brothers and sister that were flying around him. They were doing different kinds of flying. First is curveting, means they were just jumping high due to happiness. They were banking. They were just making one wing down, one wing up. Then they were going upward side, diving. Different kinds of flying techniques were shown by them because of happiness. Then he completely forgot. Means the young seagull completely forgot that he had not always been like that. Now he was able to fly, really successful. He commended himself to dive, means he started getting one special courage to dive, to soar, to go high, to take curve here or there. Then he was crying loudly because he was very happy at his own efforts. Now he was near the sea, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He was able to fly completely. He was just checking the ocean. After that, he saw a big green sea under him with little ridges moving over it. And he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. Means with water, he started checking the special path where they could rest. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on the green flooring ahead him. Means his family members were waiting for him. They were just there. They were beckoning to him. Beckoning means they were just calling for him to come to them, calling shrilly. They were very happily crying. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. For the first time, he tried to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. Then his legs started sinking down. He cried with horror. He attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. He tried to go over that, but he was really very tired. He felt weakness due to hunger. Then he couldn't rise because he was exhausted. He was really tired by this kind of strange exercise for the first time. That was the effort to fly. His feet sank into the green sea and then his belly touched it. Means his belly started touching the green sea, that is mud in the sea. And then he sank no further. Then he was not ready to sink after that because he was floating on it. The idea is he got the will to float. Then around him, his family was screaming because they were with him, they were with praise, and their beaks were giving him pieces of dog fish. He had made his first flight. In this way, he was successful to get his first flight perfectly. Now, textual questions. Thinking about the text. Question number 1. Why was the young seagull afraid to fly? Do you think all young birds are afraid to make their first flight? Or some birds more timid than others? Do you think a human baby also finds it a challenge to take its first steps? Uh, the young seagull was really afraid to fly because he didn't have special faith in his flying. Whenever he used to check vast sea beneath his ledge, he became very afraid. He started feeling that his wings were very small and his wings could never support him. This was the reason given in the chapter according to the seagull. But the real meaning of this, that the young seagull didn't have guts or courage to take one effort. Do you think all young birds are afraid to make their first flight? No. All the young birds are not afraid to make their first flight, but some birds are more timid than others. It is really fact that all the persons, all the birds, all the creatures are never alike. Some are timid, some are really brave. Some don't use their brain a lot not to try. Yes, I think a human baby also finds it a challenge to take its first steps. But all the babies are not same. Some hardly think. Some go on inventing different ways to take their first steps earlier than others. It is same with all the creatures. Some need time to be pampered or to take efforts. Now, second question. The sight of the food maddened him. What does this suggest? What compelled the young seagull to finally fly? This suggests that the bird was very hungry, as every time we hear that we have to survive in the world, and for our survival we need food. And whenever the situation of starvation comes, every person tries one thing or another. The bird, the young seagull, was hungry for the last full day. That's why when he checked all his family members taking one thing or another, he became mad. He wanted one special piece of fish, and he liked the way how his mother was taking. This really compelled the young seagull to finally fly, because by chance he took one dive at the fish and he started flying. Now, third question, they were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. Why did the seagull's father and mother threaten him and cajole him to fly? Yes, the answer is very simple. The seagull's father and mother threatened him that they would not give him any food. They would not come to them if he didn't try to fly. Then they tried to cajole him to fly, because all the parents want their children to do their simple activities themselves. Otherwise, how would they survive? That's why they were taunting. They were just showing him off, how they were enjoying the food, how they were teaching his other birds and sister how to fly. Now, fourth question. Have you ever had a similar experience where your parents encouraged you to do something that you were too scared to try? Discuss this in pairs or groups. Yes, every person may have a similar experience. You can write your personal experience, but simple thing, very common to all, every child has. I also have one similar experience when my parents encouraged me to do cycling perfectly without any support when I was very, very small. Like all the children, I was really scared to try, because I used to feel, how could one person balance on two wheels? Then parents started helping me one by one to give me support from the back. Then it was finally abandoned. Means the support was just left. Slowly, slowly, I learned. You can write any experience according to your choice. Now, fifth question. In the case of a bird flying, it seems a natural act and a foregone conclusion that it should succeed. In the examples you have given in answer to the previous question, was your success guaranteed, or was it important for you to try regardless of a possibility of failure? Uh, in case of bird flying, it is very natural that every bird has to fly. But the question is, if you have tried likewise, was your success guaranteed? No. In all the experiences, I can say we are every time not sure of our possibility of being successful. But we should try. It is very important. Whatever the occasion, whatever the opportunity comes in our hand, we should give one try. Sometimes we are not successful. Sometimes we leave it all together. Like once I tried to ride a bike, I felt that it may not be successful, but I should try because I have it in my home. So I tried, I became successful. But once I tried to learn how to play guitar, I was not successful because I couldn't get proper teacher, I couldn't get proper time. So I was not successful. But every time we should give try regardless, means we should never think every time of a chance of being failed, because every aspects may not be in our favor. Now, the extra questions are given in the link below in the description. Now, first question is, what happened to the young seagull while checking his parents and siblings? Second question, what happened when the bird started flying? I am explaining the second chapter of third unit, that is the Black Aeroplane by Frederick Forsyth. A pilot is lost in storm clouds. Does he arrive safe? Who helps him? These are the questions. For this explanation goes like this. The moon was coming up in the east behind me, and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. Means the narrator is the speaker and he is giving his personal experience that once the moon was coming from the east side and it was behind him. Stars were very clear, shining in the sky above him. There was not even a single cloud in the sky. He was very happy to be alone, high up above the sleeping countryside. Means he was in the sky. I was flying my old Dakota aeroplane over France back to England. Means he was just coming back to England from France. He was quite alone. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. Means the narrator was willing to get his holiday and he wanted to be with his family to enjoy his days. I looked at my watch. He started checking the time. It was 1:30 in the morning. It is quite personal experience of the narrator. Then I should call Paris control soon, he thought. As I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. Means the narrator was very happy because he could watch a big city in front of him. So he switched on the radio and said, Paris control Dakota DS088. Can you hear me? Means he wanted to get the contact. I am on my way to England, he started explaining. Then his conversation was over from his side. The voice from the radio answered him quickly. DSO88, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS088 over. From the second side, he was advised that he should turn 12 degrees west side. And the talk was over. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank, and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. Means very simple that he started checking the map, the compass, everything. Then he just turned to his second and the last fuel tank that was with him. And then he did as he was advised to turn his Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. I will be in time for breakfast, he thought. Means he was very, very happy that he could get breakfast. A good, big English breakfast. Means the nice, big breakfast at his home. Everything was going well. Means everything was favorable for him. He was very happy. It was an easy flight. It was quite easy for him. He was thinking Paris was just about 150 kilometers behind him when he saw the clouds. But he was surprised because the clouds were not simple. They were storm clouds. They could be horrible. They could be just spoiling for his journey. They were very huge. They were very big. They looked like black mountains standing in front of him across the sky. He knew he was quite acknowledged that he could not fly up and over them. Means he could not pass all those black clouds and he did not have enough fuel. So second point is also given that he didn't have fuel because he turned to second fuel tank to fly around them stands for storm clouds to the north or south. Means it was not possible for him. Then he started thinking that he ought to go back to Paris, that he should return. But I wanted to get home. His home was in England. He wanted one special thing, that is big breakfast at home. I will take the risk, he thought. Means he started thinking because he was not simple fellow, rather adventurous. And he started thinking to take the risk, to take that challenge. And he started flying that old Dakota straight into the storm without thinking about the consequences. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. Then, by chance, everywhere there was blackness in front of him. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. He couldn't watch anything. Nothing was visible. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. Means he could not have control over his aeroplane. It started twisting, moving here or there in the air. He looked at the compass, he started checking. Then he couldn't believe in his eyes that what happened with him in front of his eyes? The compass was turning round and round and round. Means he was confused because the compass was not working properly. It was just going round, round, round. It was dead. Means it was out of order. It would not work. It was not working. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. All the other instruments in his special Dakota were out of order. I tried the radio, means he wanted to get the contact. Then he started speaking, Paris control, can you hear me? Then there was no reply. The radio was dead also for him, means no contact. I had no radio, no compass, I could not see where I was. Means the narrator was confused. No contact, no instrument, and no visibility. He was lost in the storm. Then, in the black clouds quite near him, he saw another aeroplane. Now the story starts. It had no lights on its wings, means no lights were there, but he could see it flying next to him through the storm. Otherwise, nothing was visible, but one another aeroplane was visible. He could see the pilot's face even, and face was turned towards him. He was very happy to see another person at that time. He lifted one hand and waved. He stands for the second pilot in the second aeroplane. He lifted one hand and he started waving towards him. Follow me. He was just saying, you can follow me, you can chase me. He knows that I am lost. I thought, means the narrator was very happy. He started thinking that the second aeroplane was just for him to help. That's why the second pilot was saying he was just trying to help him. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north side in front of my Dakota. Means his aeroplane was in front of him so that it would be easier for him to follow. So he started following. He was very, very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. At that time, he was so happy and started following because there was no other option. After half an hour, just after 30 minutes, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of him in the clouds, means he could watch. Now, what happened? It is very strange that there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. Means there was no fuel. I was starting to feel frightened again, and he was feeling very, very fearful. He was terrified. But then he started to go down. Then he wanted to land. I followed through the storm. He started going only. Then suddenly he came out of the clouds and saw two long straight lines of light in front of him. Means there were lights. It was nothing. Rather, it was perfect runway for him. Means his destination was near an airport. He was surprised. He was very safe. He could survive. He turned to look for his friend in the black aeroplane. Yes, who was his friend? Second pilot in the second aeroplane. But the sky was empty. There was nothing. The black aeroplane was not there. He couldn't see it. It stands for the second aeroplane. So it was no more. Then he landed. He was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. Means he was not regretting that he had to leave his old Dakota near the control tower because he was excited to know about the second aeroplane. He went and asked a woman in the control room where he was and who the other pilot was because he was helped by him. He just wanted to thank him. Then the lady looked at him very strangely. The lady was totally surprised after listening to this, and she started laughing. Another aeroplane? Up there in the storm? What you are saying? That there was another aeroplane, and at this time, no other aeroplanes were flying tonight because that night no other aeroplane was in the storm. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. The lady explained that he was the only one pilot that could be seen on the radar. So, who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio or without any more fuel in my tanks? So many queries were in his mind. Who helped him quite safely without any instrument, without any contact, without any fuel? Who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane? So, who was the man? And he was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane that was flying in the storm without lights. So, this chapter ends here, and it is quite open ending just to think what was the special idea that helped him to survive. Now, the textual questions, thinking about the text. First question, I will take the risk. What is the risk? Why does the narrator take it? The risk is that the author, while his journey on his old Dakota, started thinking that he was not able to go back to Paris, that was 150 kilometers behind him, because he could see storm clouds very big like black mountains, and he was very sure he could not fly up or over them, and especially he didn't have any fuel to fly around them to the north or south side. That's why he started thinking he should go. Why? Because he wanted to go to his home. He wanted that breakfast. He took that risk only for these two causes. Now, second question, describe the narrator's experience as he flew the aeroplane into the storm. The narrator's experience was strange, very, very strange and horrible, because everywhere there was darkness. He couldn't watch anything outside the aeroplane. His old aeroplane started jumping, twisting in the air. He looked at the compass. He couldn't believe that the compass was not working. Other instruments were totally failed. No contact could be made. And then, by chance, he started watching one another aeroplane that had no lights on its wing, but it was moving. And the pilot of that aeroplane started talking to him, waving that he should follow. He was so happy and started following him like an obedient child. Now, third question, why does the narrator say, I landed and was not sorry to walk away the old Dakota? The narrator says so because he was not bothered about at that time for his old Dakota. He wanted to go quickly. He was so curious to know who was the second pilot because nothing was visible after that. He wanted to contact quickly and wanted to say special thanks to the second pilot because due to him he was surviving. Now, fourth question, what made the woman in the control center look at the narrator strangely? The woman in the control center was very, very surprised because she started laughing when she heard that another aeroplane with another pilot could be seen by the narrator. She started explaining that there was no other aeroplane in the sky. Rather, he was one pilot who could be seen on his old Dakota on the radar. Now, fifth question, who do you think helped the narrator to reach safely? Discuss this with yourself. Give reasons for your answer. Yes, I think the narrator didn't find any special person to help him. Rather, it was his will, his passion to go back to his home and have a big breakfast. That gave him one fancy, one imagination, that one power in the form of pilot who helped him. It really happens whenever there is any trouble time comes in our life, then two things may happen. We may give up any effort, or we may get one imagination of one special power. We start feeling one will, one threatening, one challenge, and we start working. I think this was the imagination of the narrator that helped him. That was his special wish, passion, or will that helped the narrator to reach safely. There was no mortal person to help him.